TheServants.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. It's your brother Eli here with TheServants, coming back at you with another Shabbat class. Hey, the brothers I got with me is
Brother Sapar, Brother Aliyah.
All praise to the Most High. We're coming back at you with another Shabbat service, an exhortation. And today's exhortation going to be pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Here at TheServants, we getting back into this history. You know what I'm saying? Get Job 8 and 8 real quick. No, first, get Psalms 118:24, then get Exodus 31, verse 16. So, you know, each and every week, you know what I'm saying, this is what we're going to be doing, man. We coming into this school, you know what I'm saying? We here every Saturday, you know what I'm saying? So if you need a place to come learn, come fellowship, come worship the Lord, hey, man, we here at the Serving School, and, you know, so come out. So watch this, read that. Psalms 118:24.
The book of Psalms, chapter 118 and verse 24.
This
is the day which the Lord hath made.
Right.
We will rejoice and be glad in it.
So this day right here is the day that the Lord have made, man. We're going to rejoice and be glad in this day. It's the Sabbath day, right? Read that. Exodus 31:16.
Comes the book of Exodus, chapter 31 and verse 16.
Come on.
Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath.
He said what?
Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath,
Read on.
to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations,
Right.
for a perpetual covenant.
Right.
It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever.
So this is the day that the Lord has made, and this is the day we're going to rejoice in, because why? This is the day that the Lord made as a sign between him and our descendants, the Israelites, the 12 tribes of Israel. So with that, we're going to be rejoiced in this day that was made as a covenant between us and the Lord, and we're going to be glad in it and do the things that the Lord told us to do, right? So now, real quick, get the book of Job, chapter 8 and verse 8 and verse 7. So what we come to do today, man, Job 8 and 7. So what we come to do today, we're going to dive into some history, man. As you know, these next couple of months, Most High willing, the servants, we're going to be diving into history, bringing the Bible to life in the forms of our people. Because a lot of people feel like, you know what I'm saying, the Bible is a fairy tale. It's an old mythology book. You know what I'm saying? This book was written by your oppressor. But we're going to show you that this is actual, real black history. You know what I'm saying? Real black history. This is the history of the Israelites from the beginning, in the midst of times, and all the way to the end of times, right? So read that.
Comes the book of Job, chapter 8 and verse 7. Though thy beginning was small.
So our beginning of being a nation was small, because why? After a while, we went and ventured off into things that we're going to get in today, which is idolatry. And from that idolatry, there were judgments and evils put on the Israelites, meaning what? Our rulership as a nation got cut short because of why? Certain idolatry. Read on.
Yet thy latter and end should greatly increase.
And at the end, we're going to increase because why? Our government going to be established on the top of the hill by who? Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai will be our king. So with that, we got to know our beginning might have been short, but what? We learned from our mistakes. And now, as we waking up and learning about the mistakes that we did, guess what we're going to do? We're going to get it right. So now, when we get to the kingdom, our government and our nation will never be put to the side again, right? Read.
For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age.
So we are acquiring today of the former age. We're going to learn about the history that happened in the ancient times, in the Bible, right? We're finna dive in and see what really caused us to be kicked out of the land. And, you know, it's a cycle with that land. It's only so much filth and uncleanness that land can take before the occupants of that land have to be kicked out and rooted out. So we're going to deal with that today, right? So real quick, let's start off with the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, and we're going to start with verse number 12. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, and verse number 12. Go ahead.
The book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and verse 12.
Come.
For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them the corruption of life.
Read that again.
It says, for the devising of idols.
So the devising of idols. Look up that word devise real quick, Sapar. You know what I'm saying? Here at TheServants, man, we want to make sure, you know, we want to make sure every key word we hear, we want to get the understanding of that word. What is the Lord telling us here? This is the wisdom of our forefather Solomon. So he's letting you know that in the beginning of time, there was a devising going on. So let's get the understanding of what devising is. Come on. Let's see right there.
Right? Yeah. It's the meaning of devise, plan or invent.
It say what?
Plan or invent.
So the planning or the inventing. So now read what you got again.
For the devising of idols
So the planning or inventing of idols, read,
was the beginning of spiritual fornication.
was the beginning of spiritual fornication, read.
And the invention of them, the corruption of life.
And the invention of them was the corruption of life. Now jump down to verse 27.
Verse 27.
Now watch this. So it's telling you the invention or creating of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, right? Read.
For the worshiping of idols not to be named as the beginning
It is.
Salakia. It says, for the worshiping of idols not to be named is the beginning.
So in the beginning, we're going to start in the beginning. In the beginning of creation, there was somebody who was guilty of what? Idolatry. So we're going to read about it. Finish that out.
the cause and the end of all evil.
So the worshiping of idols not to be named is the beginning. When sin first entered the world, it was through idolatry. You know what I'm saying? It says the cause of what? The Israelites losing their inheritance in their homeland and being rooted off as slaves, right? And watch this. And the end time is going to be the reason why the world get destroyed. And you know what I'm saying? A lot of people get put to death. A lot of nations going to be brought into subjection because of why? The spirit of idolatry, right? And it says, and of all evil. So all the evil you see in the world stems from what? Idolatry, right? So now let's go to Genesis real quick. You know what I'm saying? Go to Genesis, and we're going to start at Genesis chapter, let me see. All right. Verse 3. Genesis chapter 3 and verse number 1. So we're gonna deal with something here, right? Oh, so first let me get the commandment first. When God commands them. Give me 1 second, Salakia. All right, we're going to start at Genesis chapter 2 and verse number 15.
It's the book of Genesis chapter 2 and verse 15.
Uh-huh.
And the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden,
right,
to dress it,
right,
and to keep it.
So God put the main Adam, the chosen Adam, into the Garden of Eden. If you look up, you know what I'm saying, where the Garden of Eden would be in today's time, it would be in Greater Israel. So that land has always been chosen from the beginning. Keep that in mind, right? Read.
Verse 16. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden.
Every tree. So when you look at trees is symbolic for what? Man. Trees are in the likeness and comparison to man, right? Read.
Of every tree of the garden.
Matter of fact, Salaki, let's get that. Go to Ezekiel. Let's get that. Because we want to prove everything. We don't want nobody to think we just coming out of our mouth, just spewing out how we feel. Go to Ezekiel chapter 31, right? And verse 9. Let me see. Now let's start at verse 8.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 31, verse 8.
Right?
The cedars in the garden of God.
So the cedar trees in the garden of God, which was what? Eden, read.
Could not hide him.
Could not what?
Could not hide him.
Watch this. Keep reading.
The fir trees were not like his boughs.
So it's comparing who? Him like a bough of a tree. Read.
And the chestnut trees were not like his branches.
Read.
Nor any tree in the garden of God was like unto him in his beauty.
Right? Was like unto him in his beauty, meaning what? It's symbolizing that Adam was compared to what? Trees. The other people in the garden was what? Compared to what? Trees. Read on.
Says, I have made him fair by the multitude of his branches,
right,
so that all the trees of Eden that were in the garden of God envied him.
Envied him. So think about this now. Now I'm gonna ask you this is intelligent. Read that last part of that verse again, Ken. That was a mighty point, right?
that were in, so that all the trees of Eden
So all that the trees that were in Eden at that time, read on,
that were in the garden of God envied him.
envied him. So now I'm gonna ask yourself, y'all look like intelligent people, right? What, just make sure I'm not tripping. Can a tree envy somebody in this day and time? Can you walk out the house with new shoes, a nice car, a lot of money in your pocket, and the tree just be sitting over there envying you, man? The other tree talking to the other tree like, I don't like this. So what is it talking about? It's letting you know that it's in symbolic form that what? The trees mentioned in the book of Genesis is referring to men or nations, right? So now let's go back. Go back to Genesis 2 and verse 16. Come.
This is Genesis chapter 2 and verse 16. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden.
So every man in the garden, read.
Thou mayest freely eat.
And he's speaking about what? Learning of certain things, right? So in the garden, you're going to have other people. You got nations, just like you have in the world today. You got a chosen nation. Then you got the other nations who are not chosen, who are not commanded, and have rules from the Most High, right? Read on.
But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
So it's certain trees also that have knowledge and understanding on how to do good and how to do evil, right? Read.
Thou shalt not eat of it.
He said what?
Thou shalt not eat of it.
So he said them certain trees over there that you see knowing how to do good things and how to do bad things, don't go over there and eat of that tree. We're going to figure out what he's talking about in a second. Keep reading.
For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die.
Right? So now let's go down to Genesis chapter 3. So now we're going to go into the beginning of this. Now start at Genesis 3 and verse 1.
Come on, this is the book of Genesis chapter 3 and verse 1.
Right.
Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field.
So now it's talking about what? It's talking about another individual in the garden in the area at that time, right? So it said the serpent was more subtle. So when you look up that word serpent, it means trick, sneaky, conniving, slithery, right? Read on.
Than any beast of the field, which the Lord God had made.
Right.
And he said unto the woman.
And he said unto the woman, so this man who had the spirit of a serpent said unto this woman, read.
Yea, have God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden?
Right.
And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden,
right,
God has said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
Lest ye die. Now watch this.
And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die.
Right.
For God doeth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened.
So it's a certain so-called tree in the garden that if you eat of these trees over here, he said you shall be as gods, right? Watch this.
And ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
Right.
And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food,
so read.
And it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise.
So learning from these particular trees were trees that do what? Make you wise, right? Read on.
She took of the fruit thereof and did eat.
So now let's watch this, because it said don't eat of the tree of good and evil, right? And she said this certain tree or trees were good to the eyes. So it was certain things she had to be seen that was good to the eyes. Now watch this. Stay right there. Give me Job 34 verse 3. You got to understand what these words mean, because this is given in an allegory, right? Watch this. Give me Job 34 and verse number 3.
The book of Job, chapter 34 and verse 3.
Read.
For the ear try words.
He said the what?
For the ear try words.
So your ear tries words, right?
As the mouth tastes of meat.
As what?
As the mouth tastes of meat.
So what is that saying in another term? The same way as your ears can hear things, when your mouth tries meat, when you tasting a steak, you tasting it to see, let me see if this good or not. This is the same thing your ears do. So when this, read that one more time.
For the ear try words, as the mouth tastes of meat.
As the mouth tastes meat. So what is it telling you? When you go back to the book of Genesis, now read that verse again. It was pleasant to the eye.
And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes,
right,
and a tree to be desired to make one wise,
right,
she took of the fruit thereof,
right,
and did eat.
And she took of the fruit of the actions that this person gave, and what? Did eat. She entertained it. She listened to it. So now, give me Hosea 10:13. So now we're going to see what the fruit is that she inherited, right? Watch this. Because he told her, you should surely not die, but you will be as God, learning what? Good and evil. Now watch this.
The book of Hosea, chapter 10 and verse 13.
Let's see what this fruit is that she took, because in the world today, the Christians will have you believe that it's what?
Yeah.
They're talking about an apple,
Yeah.
a gala apple,
Yeah.
a crispy apple, a fruity apple. But then you go to the Publix every day or the farmer's market and you buy your kids what? Apples. Right? So watch this.
The book of Hosea, chapter 10, verse 13.
Come on.
Ye have plowed wickedness, ye have reaped iniquity,
Right.
ye have eaten the fruit of lies.
You have eaten the what?
The fruit of lies.
So the fruits that she's seeing were fruits of lies. She was seeing actions that were untrue. She started witnessing and entertaining evil. Read.
Because thou didst trust in thy ways.
And she thought, and she trusted in the ways of who? The other trees or other nations that she's seen flowing amongst the garden. Read on.
In the multitude of thy mighty men.
Right. Watch this. Now, go back to Genesis. Verse 7.
Verse 7. And the eyes of them.
No, hold on. Yeah, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat. And I'll finish that off.
Okay. And that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise.
Mm-hmm.
She took of the fruit thereof and did eat,
Read.
and gave also unto her husband with her.
Right.
And he did eat.
And so her husband, the chosen Adam, also seen these ways and seen these evils that these people did. And what he did eat, he listened to it, he entertained it, right? He ate the fruit of these lies, which were wickedness, right? So now we're gonna jump down for the sake of time, right? So now watch this. Let's read after what happened. Let's see what happened at the end of this. Jump down to verse 22. Because now we're gonna show you something. This same land that we're finna read about, we're gonna learn that in this same area, in this same land, when wickedness abounds on it, you know what I'm saying? It's like a cup. When you post juice or water in a cup, that cup has a limit. And once you reach the limit on that cup, what happens? That cup will start to overflow to the point to what? And you have to either pour it out to keep it running or what? Like a bucket. You know what I'm saying? Once you're filling up a bucket with a leak, once that bucket get full, you got to dump that water out, put the bucket back down, so what? Now they can rise back up. Right now, watch this, read that.
This is Genesis chapter 3 and verse 22. And the Lord God said, Behold, the man is become as one of us,
right,
to know good and evil.
Right.
And now, lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever.
Right. Watch this.
Therefore, the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden.
Sent him what?
Sent him forth from the Garden of Eden.
So this man, this chosen Adam, got kicked out of that land. He got kicked out of that land. The Garden of Eden. Right? Read.
To till the ground from which he was taken.
Right.
So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims.
So he kicked the man out of the Garden of Eden, right? He kicked him out of the Garden of Eden. Real quick. Hold on, watch this. Let me show you something real quick. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. All right, so for the sake of time, I'll show this. My phone is so for some reason. All right, hold on. We got it. Well, we'll get back to that later, right? All right, so now go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 12, verse 1. Salaki on that, man. This phone tripping. All right, so start at verse number 1, because now we seen that Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden, right? Now watch this.
The book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 12, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
For thine incorruptible spirit is in all things.
All right, so the Lord's incorruptible spirit is in all things. Read on.
Therefore chastenest thou them by little and little that offend,
right,
and warnest them by putting them in remembrance wherein they have offended, that leaving their wickedness they may believe on thee, O Lord.
So the Lord even chastises us and punishes us in this world today. Little by little, he'll punish us here, he'll punish us there. That what we might remember and consider why we're doing the things that we're doing. Just like with the curses, right? Read on.
For it was thy will to destroy by the hands of our fathers both those old inhabitants of thy holy land.
Read that part again. For it was what?
For it was thy will to destroy by the hands of our fathers both those old inhabitants of thy holy land.
So the Lord said it was by his will. Give me Genesis 15. You know what I'm saying? It was by the Lord's will that what? He put the spirit on our forefathers to do what? Kick the inhabitants that, you know what I'm saying, occupied the land of Israel while we were in Egypt out of the land, right? So now we're going to read about that prophecy being fulfilled. Read that, Genesis 15:13.
God, it's the book of Genesis chapter 15 and verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs,
Right?
and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
Now jump down to verse 16.
Verse 16. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again.
Right?
For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full.
The iniquity of who?
The iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full.
So the sins of the Amorites is not yet full. That's what the Lord said. So now we're finna go read about the iniquities of the Amorites, but keep reading.
And it came to pass that when the sun went down, and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace, and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. In the same day, Yahweh made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land,
Right.
from the river of Egypt,
Right.
unto the great river, the river Euphrates,
Right.
the Kenites,
Right.
and the Kenizzites,
Right.
and the Cadmonites,
Right.
and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the
Rephaims.
and the Rephaims, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites.
Basically, every heathen that was dwelling in the land of Canaan, which would be today as Israel, was what? Prophesied that the Israelites was going to dwell there. And now when you go back to Wisdom of Solomon, this is how they was going to leave that land. Read that again.
Verse 3. For it was thy will to destroy by the hands of our fathers both those old inhabitants of thy holy land.
Right? So we already know how that happened, because when we led out of Egypt, Moses led us through war, and Joshua was the one that finished the job, right? So now keep reading.
Whom thou hatest for doing most odious works of witchcraft.
He said for what?
Whom thou hatest for doing most odious works of witchcraft.
So he hated these nations for doing the most odious works of witchcraft, right? Read.
And wicked sacrifices.
And wicked sacrifices. So these people doing wicked sacrifices. Now real quick, bro, go to Deuteronomy 18:9. Go to Deuteronomy 18:9 and read that real quick. So we're finna read about something real quick. Let's see the odious works that these people did and the sacrifices that they did.
It's the book of Deuteronomy chapter 18 and verse 9.
Right?
When thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee,
Right?
thou shalt not learn to do after the abomination of those nations.
So when we conquered the land, God told us don't do the wicked abominations that those nations did. Right? Read.
There shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire.
Because why? We're going to read when we go back that the Canaanites was doing that. They were offering sacrifices. What? Sacrificing their children, right? Read.
Or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch,
Keep reading.
or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer.
Or a necromancer. Watch this.
For all that do these things are an abomination unto Yahweh.
Right?
And because of these abominations,
Watch this.
Yahweh thy power doeth drive them out from before thee.
And he said that's why he drives them out from before. Because why? The Lord cannot stand for abominable things to take place in his land. He'll only let it go by for only so long. But once his cup is full, guess what? He gonna pour that cup out. It means it bringing what? Destruction on people, right? So now let's go back. Keep reading. Where you at, King?
It says, verse 5, it says, wicked sacrifice, I didn't get that far. But it says, whom thou hatest for doing odious works of witchcraft and wicked sacrifices.
Right?
And also those merciless murderers of children.
So this is the things that we just read in Deuteronomy 18, right? He said, bro, they sacrifice their children, read.
And devourers of man's flesh.
Right?
And the feast of blood.
And they had feast of blood, right? Read on.
With their priests out of the midst, their idolatrous crew.
Their who?
Their idolatrous crew.
So they had an idolatrous crew. They had a whole team of people who were committed to these idolatrous deeds, read.
And the parents,
right,
that killed with their own hands,
right,
souls destitute of help.
Souls what?
Souls destitute of help.
Right, so now watch this. And they had their own priests, right? So now watch this real quick. Watch this, read verse 7.
That the land which thou esteemest above all other might receive a worthy colony of God's children.
So he kicked them out the land so that the land that the Lord did esteemed above all others might receive a worthy colony of children. Give me the book of Leviticus 18:21. Let's get the book of Leviticus chapter 18 verse 21. So that's good on that right there, right? We're going to start at Leviticus 18:21 and we're going to read down a little bit. But then I want you to go to Genesis 10 about Nimrod.
The book of Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 21.
Read.
And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire.
So the Lord also commanded us plenty of times. Watch this. Jump to verse 1. I want to show something.
Leviticus 18 verse 1.
Read.
And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel,
Right.
and say unto them, I am the Lord your God.
Right.
After the doings of the land of Egypt,
After the doings of the land of Egypt, read.
wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do.
After the doings of the land of Egypt shall ye not do. Read.
And after the doings of the land of Canaan,
And after the doings of the land of Canaan, you read about the things that the people did in Canaan in what? Wisdom of Solomon chapter 12, right? Read.
whither I bring you,
Right.
shall ye not do.
Right.
Neither shall ye walk in their ordinances.
And neither shall you walk in their ordinances, which is what? They customs, meaning what? Sacrificing their children. We're going to read about it. Now jump down back to 21. So when you read Leviticus 18, these were a lot of the things that the Egyptians were doing and who the Canaanites was doing. But it all started from somewhere, which we're going to put together today, right? Read on.
Leviticus 18 and verse 21.
Read.
And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire.
Matter of fact, start at verse 20.
Come on, verse 20. Moreover, thou shalt not lie carnally with thy neighbor's wife to defile thyself with her.
Right. That's something that was happening in Egypt. That was something that we heard and read about it happening in what? Babylon, right? And all throughout the land of Canaan, right? Through all these Hamitic lands, these were type of things going on. Brothers is popping their parents, popping their sisters, popping their brothers, popping animals, right? Read on.
And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech.
To who?
To Molech.
Keep that in mind. To Molech, right? This is one of the names of the gods, which we're going to get into later, that they were sacrificing to, right? Watch this read.
Neither shalt thou profane the name of Yahweh. I am Yahweh. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind.
Mm-hmm.
It is abomination.
Right.
Neither shalt thou lie with any beast to defile thyself therewith.
Mm-hmm.
Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion. Defile not ye yourselves in any of these things.
So when you read all the way up from the beginning of 1 and you read down to this verse, what we reading it right now, he said, don't defile yourself with any of those things. Right? Read on.
For in all these the nations are defiled, which I cast out before
Read
you.
that verse again.
Defile not ye yourselves in any of these things. For in all these the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you.
He said, so in all these acts and activities, the nations that I cast out, they were defiled with that. Right? Read on.
And the land is defiled thereto. Oh, Slaki. And the land is defiled, therefore I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it.
So because the land is defiled, the Lord said what? He visits the sin is on that land, right? Watch this.
And the land itself vomited out her inhabitants.
What does this say? And the land itself does what?
Vomiteth out her inhabitants.
So when you think about the land of Israel, that spiritual land that the Lord said in Wisdom of Solomon 12, he esteems this land above all lands. When that land has abominable activities going on and evil festivities and evil sacrifices going on in that land, what does he say the land do? It vomited out the inhabitants of that land at the time, right? So now we're going to read, in the beginning, who got rooted out the land? Adam and Eve, right? Because of what? The abominations that they seen and they was entertaining in that land, they got vomited out. You know what I'm saying? We're going to read how, we just read about how the Canaanites got rooted, vomited out. But now we're going to also see how the Israelites got vomited out that land many times. You know what I'm saying? So now, but first we got to read this, right? Because you got to understand, in the beginning of idolatry, he said in the Wisdom of Solomon 14 and 12, read that again. Read Wisdom of Solomon 14 and 12 again. You got to get an understanding here.
The book of Wisdom, Psalm chapter 14, verse 12.
Right?
For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication.
So the invention of idols was the beginning of fornication, idolatry, right? Now jump down to verse 27 again.
Verse 27. For the worshiping of idols not to be named is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil.
So this idolatry that rooted up in the world, this is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evils that is upon the earth today, because the world today is what? Still infested with this same idolatry and the spirit of this idolatry that started in the beginning, right? So now, go to Genesis chapter 10 and read that in verse 8.
The book of Genesis chapter 10, verse 8.
Right?
He was a mighty hunter.
Genesis 10, verse 8.
Let's look it. And Cush beget Nimrod.
He said, and Cush beget Nimrod. Remember that name, Nimrod. Watch this.
And he began to be mighty one in the earth.
And Nimrod, during this time after the flood, began to be a mighty man throughout the whole earth. Right? Read.
He was a mighty hunter before the Lord.
He was a what?
He was a mighty hunter before the Lord.
And this man was a mighty hunter. Read.
Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord.
Right.
In the beginning of his kingdom.
In the beginning of his what?
In the beginning of his kingdom.
So you got to think about it. At this time of the world, after the flood, people was regenerating, right? And in the process of time, Cush begot a son by the name of Nimrod. He was the first one to establish a kingdom after the flood. Through what? Hunting, killing, his crafty skills of war. This man did what? He created a kingdom. Watch this.
In the beginning of his kingdom was Babel.
And his what?
In the beginning of his kingdom was Babel.
Meaning what? Read on.
In Erech, in Akkad, in Conyers, in the land of Shinar.
Right.
And out of that land went forth Assur, and builded Nineveh, in the city of Rehoboth, and Calah.
Read.
And Rezin between Nineveh and Calah, the same is a great city.
And the same is a what?
And the same is a great city.
Now watch this. So hold on. I want to show you something, right? Because we're going to read about something. And let me see. So when you read about this, right? When you read it down, it brought about Nimrod, right? And out of his land and what all he had, right? So now when you read about this, it also is reading about his other siblings and other relatives that come from Ham, right? And you read about Canaan, right? Watch this. Jump down to verse 18.
Verse 18. And the Arvadite, and the Zemarite, and the Hamathite, and afterward were the...
Salakia, verse 15.
Verse 15.
Come.
It says, and Canaan begat Sidon, his firstborn, in Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Gergesite.
Right. Read on.
And the Hivite.
Right.
And the Archite.
Right.
And the Sinite.
Right.
And the Arvadite.
All right, so now we're gonna leave that alone right now. So we read about these same Canaanite nations that was being established at this time. But when you read down, the only one that got notarized or noticed for having a great kingdom get started was who? Nimrod, right? So now jump down to 11 and verse 1.
It's 11 and 1.
Yep, Genesis 11 and 1.
Genesis 11 and 1.
Right.
And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech.
So hold on, during this time, right? When you read Genesis 10, it's telling you about the generations of the sons of Noah, right? Shem, Ham, and Japheth, right? And who was the one that got labeled the empire? Who the one got labeled the kingdom, right? Who? No, Nimrod.
Nimrod.
Yeah. Right? And his kingdom was called what? Babel. Right? So now it told you he was a mighty hunter. He was a man of mighty fame in the world, right? So now read that. Genesis 11 and 1 again.
It says, and the whole earth was one language.
It was of one language, read.
And of one speech.
Watch this.
And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there.
This all people, right? Or most of the people at that time. And Shinar is in where? Babylon. Watch this, read.
And they said one to another, go to, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar.
Read on.
And they said, go to, let us build us a city in a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth.
And right, read on.
And the Lord came down to the city and tower, which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. and this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do.
So without reason why we going through this, right? Because I want to show brothers something, right? When you thinking about the idolatry that was invented in the world, it had to start somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it starts somewhere, when you read Genesis 11, it tell you that what? At one particular time, everybody had one language, one tongue. They all dwelt in one place, which was called Shinar. In Babel, or the land modern day Babylon, who had fame in that land? Nimrod, right? So if Nimrod had fame in that land and all the people who was coming from the sons of Noah dwelt in that area, who did everybody know it was reference to? Nimrod. Everybody knew about this fame of Nimrod, right? So now watch this, keep reading.
And it says, so the Lord, go to, let us go down, and there confound their language.
So he said we're going to confound their language, meaning what? All these different nations going to get their own language now, their own cultures now, right? Watch this.
That they may not understand one another's speech.
Right, watch this.
So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth,
right?
And they left off to build the city.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore is the name of the city called Babel.
Babel. When you go back to Genesis 10, what did it say? What did it say? In the beginning of his kingdom was what? Babel. It's talking about Babylon from King Nimrod, right? Read.
Because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth.
And from that point, the Lord scattered all these nations who were under the kingdom of Babel throughout all of the earth. You go that way, you go that way, you go that way. Because why? They were forming idolatry to Nimrod, right? Mm-hmm. So now we're gonna go dig into that, right? We're gonna see how the Israel gets separated. But first, I'm gonna show you how. Go to Judges real quick. Let's go to the book of Judges, man. So watch this. We finna reveal something today, because a lot of people don't understand why in the world today, all these religions got something in common. All these religions got something that's similar. They go back to the first invention of idolatry and man worship on the earth, right? So watch this. Give me the book of Judges. Give me the book of Judges, chapter 28. 1 and verse 28 real quick, and we're going to jump down real quick.
The book of Judges, chapter 1 and verse 28.
Read.
And it came to pass, when Israel was strong, that they put the Canaanites to tribute.
So we put the Canaanites to tribute. We were supposed to drive all of them out and utterly kill all of them, but we were unable to kill all of them, right? So what? We put them to tribute, man. We extorting these brothers, right? Read.
And did not utterly drive them out. Neither did Ephraim drive out the Canaanites that dwelt in Gezer.
Right.
But the Canaanites dwelt in Gezer among them.
Watch this.
Neither did Zebulun drive out the inhabitants of Kitron, nor the inhabitants of Nahalol. Mm-hmm. But the Canaanites dwelt among them and became tributaries.
Read.
Neither did Asher drive out the inhabitants of Akonor, the inhabitants of Zidon, nor of Allah, nor of Akzib, nor of Helba.
Right, but watch this. So when you think about this, right, when you read on this, right, we're not going to read all this for the sake of time, but you read that of these nations that was what? Big on idolatry, that was sacrificing, doing odious work. They had their own priests in their idolatrous crew, right? They had a whole camp, goddamn, in their lands, right? Now, watch this. Jump to Judges chapter 2 and verse 1. Watch this.
The book of Judges chapter 2 and verse 1.
Right.
And an angel of the Lord came up from Gilgal to Bochum,
right,
and said, I made you to go up out of Egypt,
right,
and have brought you unto the land which I swear unto your fathers.
Right.
And I said, I will never break my covenant with you.
Watch this.
And ye shall make no league with the inhabitants of this land.
Right.
Ye shall throw down their altars, but ye have not obeyed my voice.
He said what?
But ye have not obeyed my voice.
Watch this.
Why have ye done this? Wherefore I also said, I will not drive them out from before you,
right,
but they shall be as thorns in your sides.
And he said these nations going to be a thorn in your side, poking, right? Watch this.
And their God shall be a snare unto you.
And their what?
and their gods shall be a snare unto you.
So he's talking about all these nations, gods were going to be a snare unto us. But remember what happened in the beginning. You got to remember from the time of Babel, before everybody got scattered, their languages split. Everybody was under rulership of under who? Nimrod. In Babylon, right? Watch this now. Watch this, right? So now, let's jump down. Let's jump down to verse 11. Verse 11.
Judges chapter 2 and verse 11.
Now, read. No, we got time, bro. If we got to do part 2, we do part 2. All right, so read verse 6. Jump down to verse 6. Just read a little fast.
Verse 6. And when Joshua had let the people go, the children of Israel went every man unto his inheritance to possess the land.
Right, amongst the Canaanites. Keep that in mind. Read.
And the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua.
All the days of Joshua, because why? We had somebody who was standing 10 toes for the laws of Yahweh, right? Watch this.
And all the days of the elders that outlived Joshua.
Right.
Who had seen all the great works of the Lord that he did for Israel.
Right.
And Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of Yahweh, died, being 110 years old.
So now Joshua died. So now watch this. Jump down to verse 10.
Verse 10. And also all that generation were gathered unto their fathers, and there rose another generation after them,
right?
Which knew not Yahweh.
They knew not Yahweh, because why? The most previous people died out. The leader of Israel died out, right? Watch this.
Nor yet the works which he had done for Israel.
Now watch this.
And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of Yahweh.
Right.
And served Baalim.
They served who?
Baal.
They served Baalim, right? Watch this, read.
And they forsook Yahweh of their fathers, which brought them out of the land of Egypt, and followed other gods of the gods of the people that were round about them,
read.
And bowed themselves unto them.
Watch this.
And provoked Yahweh to anger.
And they did what?
Provoked Yahweh to anger.
Now watch this, keep reading.
And they forsook Yahweh and served Baal.
They did what?
They forsook Yahweh and served Baal.
Baal. So we forsook the Most High and served Baal, and who else?
And Ashtoreth.
And Ashtoreth. Baal and Ashtoreth. Keep them two names in mind. So we got Nimrod, you got Baal, and you got Ashtoreth. And the reason why we're keeping this in mind, because Nimrod was the beginning of idolatry, being a man getting worship on the earth, right? But now, in thousands of years later, or hundreds of years later, or thousands of years later in this time, we should say, when you think about it, it's telling you that now the Israelites are in the land of Canaan. We read in Genesis 10 that what? Canaanites were amongst the people who lived what? In close distance to who? Nimrod and the Tower of Babel. They were one of the ones that we read about that he gave name and description that what? Was under that one language, under that one influence, and people knew who that what? Nimrod was a mighty hunter on the earth, right? So now, read that. No, so we good on that right now. No, read, keep reading on that. Keep reading on that. I'm going to show you something. Verse 14.
Verse 14. And the anger of Yahweh was hot against Israel.
Right.
And he delivered them into the hands of spoilers that spoiled them.
Right.
And he sold them into the hands of their enemies.
Right.
Round about.
Round about. So what? They got kicked out the land after Joshua. The same thing we read about in Leviticus 18 and 24. So now, let's go read about some other things for the sake of time. Go to 1 Kings 11, right? So now we're going to get into the nitty gritty, right? We're going to read about how, in relevancy, how did the kingdom of Israel split? How did the 12 tribes of Israel become divided into two kingdoms, right? Let's find out. Let's find out. And we keep in mind in Judges, it said that what? The Israelites served who? Baal and Ashtoreth, right? So now watch this. If you don't know, you finna know. Watch this. Read that. 1 Kings 11, verse 1.
The book of 1 Kings, chapter 11, verse 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women.
So the King Solomon was a man who loved heathenish women, right? Read on.
Together with the daughter of Pharaoh.
Together with who?
The daughter of Pharaoh.
So now, before we read this, real quick, bro, go to Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 3. Now, we finna read about something, right? Because the Lord commanded us and warned us not to do certain things, right? Read that when you get it.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 and verse 3.
Right.
Neither shalt thou make marriages with them.
Right.
Thou daughter, thou shalt not give unto his son,
right.
Nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son.
Right, read on.
For they will turn away thy son from following me.
They're going to do what?
Turn away thy son from following
And
me,
he said they're going to turn away your son from following the Most High. Read.
that they may serve other gods.
They're going to do serving other gods, right? Read.
So will the anger of Yahweh be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly.
And he said it's going to destroy you suddenly, right? So now, watch this. Read on.
But thus shall ye deal with them. Ye shall destroy their altars, and break down their images, and cut down their groves, and burn their graven images with fire.
So this is what we were supposed to do, right? But now, let's go back. Let's read. Go back to 1 Kings 11.
1 Kings 11:1. But King Solomon loved many strange women,
Right.
together with the daughter of Pharaoh,
Right.
women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites,
Mm.
Zidonians,
Right.
and Hittites.
And keep in mind, all these people except the Edomites, you know what I'm saying? All these other nations except the Edomites, and I say the Moabites and the Ammonites, they weren't around during the time of Noah's three sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. They weren't there at that time, so when they did come into the world, into the existence, they adapted in what? They adapted to the world and the idols of the other nations that was around them, right? Watch this.
Of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love.
So a lot of brothers like to use this too. Oh, you know, it don't mean, you know, when you read Deuteronomy 73, it doesn't say the white woman or the Chinese woman or the Arab woman. So, you know, technically, you know, I can do what I do with them. But what he just say here, he named them out and he said, unto these women or these strange nations, I told you not to do this because they will turn you to their God, right? Now, watch this, keep reading.
And he had 700 wives,
Right,
princesses,
right.
and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart.
Right.
For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods.
So the reason why we start here, because when you go to the wisdom of Solomon, Solomon learned that what? All those women that he was serving, this is how the beginning of idolatry started. This is where the cause of idolatry is at in the world today. Because why? Through wisdom, Solomon understood all these gods got the same thing of coming and come back to one person. Right? Keep reading.
And it says, for it came to pass when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians.
He said he went after who?
Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians.
So Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the god of the Sidonians, right? So watch this. We're gonna tucker these gods individually. So now, hold on. Let me get this. Let me get my brother straight over here. Now, hold on. Watch this. Watch this. So we're gonna read about Semiramis first. We're gonna read about Semiramis first. Watch this. Yep. So we read about Nimrod, right? So now let's read about somebody else. Read that.
Come. After Nimrod's death, Semiramis promoted the belief that he was a god.
Right.
She claimed that she saw a full-grown evergreen tree spring out of the roots of a dead tree stump,
Right.
symbolizing the springing forth of new life of Nimrod.
She said what? Read that part again.
She claimed that she saw a full-grown evergreen tree
Right.
spring out of the roots of a dead tree stump, symbolizing the springing forth of new life for Nimrod.
Right, so now no, stop right there. I'm going to read something else. It says Ashtaroth. That's what we're reading about first, right? The name given in the Old Testament to the old Semitic mother goddess called in Phoenicia Ashtart, in Babylonian Ishtar, and in Arabia Athar, for her worship among the Hebrews. See Ashtoreth. Ashtoreth is derived from Ashtart by a distortion after the etymology, you know what I'm saying, as the etymology of Bashith. So now watch this. Ashtart was the chief goddess of the Sidonians, Hamites, among whom she was worshipped as an independent divinity, and also under the name of Ashtart of the name Baal. So now keep that in mind, right? Keep that in mind. Ashtart, she got her divinity. She was known as an independent divinity, but also she was in alliance and ties to Baal, right? So now keep reading what you got.
On the anniversary of his birth, she said Nimrod would visit the evergreen tree and leave gifts under it.
Right. So now we gonna later on we're gonna tie that into modern day terms, right? But keep reading. Now, let me see. Cause there's something else we're going on there. Yep. Let me see. Yep. Read this part. Semiramis and Horus. Right there. Semiramis and Horus.
Semiramis and Horus were worshipped as Madonna and child.
Right?
As the generation.
So now, think about it. It said, read that part again.
Semiramis and Horus.
So Horus was her son that she had after that. You know what I'm saying? She said that this was her son between who? Her and this so-called dead man. Right? We're going to get into that later, right? But watch this.
Were worshipped as Madonna and child.
Madonna and child in this ancient time, read.
As the generations passed, they were worshipped under other names in different countries.
And who?
Worshipped under other names in different countries.
In different countries.
And languages.
And who?
And languages.
So now, when you bring this back to Genesis 11, why did God do to the people who all dwelt under the land of Babel? He scattered them and gave them what? Different languages. But do it. In their mind and their visual, they still seen this same deity, his husband and wife, who were considered what at that time? Gods, right? Keep reading.
Many of these are recognizable. Fortuna and Jupiter in Rome, Aphrodite,
Watch this.
and Adonis
Right.
in Greece, and Ashtoreth.
They say what?
And Ashtoreth.
And who?
And Ashtoreth.
Read.
And Molech. Baal.
Keep on.
And Ashtoreth, Arstoth, and Molech, Baal in Canaan.
And who?
In Canaan.
In Canaan. So now, when you go back where you read what we just read in Genesis 2:13, who were the Israelites worshiping? They was worshiping Nimrod and who? Semiramis, which was be who? Baal and who? Ashtoreth, right? So now let's go back to 1 Kings. Read verse 5 again.
Verse 5. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of Zidonians.
Right, of the Zidonians, what we just read about, which is who? Semiramis, right? Watch this.
And after Milcom.
Who?
Milcom.
Milcom, read.
The abomination of the Ammonites.
The abomination of the Ammonites. So now we're finna read about Milcom. And remember what I told you. Ammonites, Moabites, and Edomites were younger nations than these other people, right? Who descended from Ham. Now read what you got.
Milcom.
Read where you getting it from.
This is from Bible Odyssey.
Watch this.
Milcom from the Semitic root.
From the Semitic root. Who is Semitic? Ammon, Moab. They are Semitic people. Read.
Semitic root, MLK, king.
So the word Milcom means king, or in Hebrew is Malak. Watch this.
The Ammonite form of Baal.
The who?
The Ammonite form of Baal.
The Ammonite form of Baal. The same God, just in their term. Read, watch this.
The Northwest Semitic god of fertility and the storm. He was closely related to the
Phoenicians.
from the Phoenician Baals, Melkor and Molech.
And who?
And Molech.
Read.
To whom human sacrifices.
So hold on. To whom what?
Human sacrifices.
Read.
Particularly children were offered.
Wait a minute. When you go back to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 12, what were the original Canaanites doing in the land? Sacrificing. Right? When you when you take that back, where did they learn that from? If their God was considered Baal and Ashtoreth, who was they sacrificing to? Nimrod. Right? So now when you get that what the Moabites are doing, who did they learn this from? The Canaanites, which were really serving who? Nimrod. Right? Now, keep reading.
He was closely related to the Phoenician Baals, Melkor and Molech, to whom human sacrifices, particularly children, were offered.
Watch this.
The worship of Milcom.
So the worship of this Moabites, this heathen god, read,
was introduced into Jerusalem by Solomon.
So Solomon brought this Ammonitish heathen god to Jerusalem doing what? Marrying these women, right? So now, that was good for that one. What else I had you looking up? Oh, keep reading. Go back, verse 6.
Verse 6.
Right?
And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father.
Read.
Then did Solomon build a high place for Conyers.
Come on. So now we're going into another damn God. He built a high place for who?
Conyers.
So now watch this. Read.
The abomination of Moab.
So now the abomination of Moab. So we just read about the Ammonites God, the Zidonian God, and now we finna read about the God that the Moabites were serving that King Solomon tapped into, right? Read that. Now hold what you got. Watch this. Now read what you got.
Come on. Chemosh was a god developed out of the primitive Semitic mother goddess altar.
Hold on. Read that again. Read that again.
Chemosh was a god developed out of the primitive Semitic mother goddess Atar.
Now, where does the word Atar come from? Asterisk, Semiramis. The same thing, right? Watch this.
Whose name he bears.
Whose name he what?
Whose name he bears.
Watch this.
Moabite stone.
Right?
Line 17, compare Barton, Semitic origins. Peake wrongfully holds that Ashtar Chemosh was a deity distinct from Chemosh, while Moore and Bajin betray Zur Semitic religious something.
All right, so now go back to the other. Go to the other. Go to the other. That's it on that one. Now read that as I got highlighted for you. Watch this. We still talking about Chemosh, who is in the feminine term who? Asterisk, right? Watch this.
Chemosh, therefore, was in general a deity of the same nature as Baal.
Wait a minute. Read that part again.
Chemosh, therefore, was in general a deity of the same nature as Baal.
Read.
On critical occasions, a human sacrifice was considered necessary to secure his favor.
To secure his favor. To secure his favor. So Chemosh has roots with who? Ashtoreth, which is mother and son, and it also turns back to who? Baal. And who was her son Horus supposed to be rebirthed into? Nimrod. All this go back to these same deities, right? So is that all I want on that? That's it on that. That's it on that. That's it on that, right? Chemosh is king, all this stuff like that. Now go back to 1 Kings 11 and 7 again.
Verse 7. It says, Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon.
And for who?
For Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon.
Right? So Molech. So now, give me that about Molech. Go ahead, say it. Read.
Come. Molech and Baal are both names of Canaanite deities.
He said what?
Molech and Baal are both names of Canaanite deities.
So these are the same deities, right?
And some modern scholars suggest that Molech may be an ethnic for Baal.
It's an ethnic for Baal. It's the same person. And when you go back to that article we were just looking at, who is this talking about? Nimrod is Baal. Nimrod is all these different gods. So we're looking at all these different nations, what they got in common. They serving the same two people. Nimrod and Semiramis. Just in different languages and different tongues, name different things, right? So now this is what King Solomon brought to Jerusalem during these times. You know what I'm saying? Everything his father fought for, warned against these people. King Solomon came in, married these women, and did what? Fell victim to their gods, right? Now watch this. Keep reading.
It says, verse 8, And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods.
Watch this.
And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel,
Right.
which he appeared unto him twice,
Right.
and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods. But he kept not which the Lord commanded.
Right.
Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, For as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee,
Right.
and I will give it to thy servant.
Right.
Notwithstanding in thy days, I will not do it for David thy father's sake,
Right.
but I will rend it out of thy hand of thy son, Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake.
So the Lord told him he gonna script the kingdom and gonna leave him with one nation, one tribe, which was who? Benjamin. And eventually it'll be Levi as the priest, right? So now let's jump to 1 Kings chapter 12. You know what I'm saying? Hold on, is this something else I want? You got something on that?
Nah. 1 Kings 12.
Yeah, 1 Kings 12. And let me see. We're gonna go into this, we're gonna skim through this. How much time we got left? About 2:47. Alright, we got a little bit more time. We're gonna skim through this, right? So, right, now jump to 1 Kings chapter 12 and I started verse 1, we're just gonna jump around.
The 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 1. And Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel were come to Shechem and make him king.
To make him king, read.
And it came to pass, when Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who was yet in Egypt, heard of it, for he was fled from the presence of King Solomon, and Jeroboam dwelt in Egypt.
Right.
And that they sent and called him, and Jeroboam and all the congregation of Israel came and spake unto Rehoboam, saying, Thy father made our yoke grievous.
Right, why? He was texting these people, why? Because he was in the midst of idolatry. He's getting funds from these people supporting all these false gods who come back to the same two people who were the progenitors and father and mother of idolatry, right? So now these people are like, hey man, we need a break, man. We need a tax cut, right? Read on.
Now therefore make thou the grievous service of thy father in his heavy yoke, which he put upon us lighter,
right?
And we will serve thee.
And we will serve thee. Now jump down to we're gonna jump down to verse number 12. So we're gonna skip it. So these people told these things to, you know what I'm saying, Rehoboam. Rehoboam went and sought counsel of his friends, and now we're finna read about the counsel that his friends told him, knowing that the judgment that God put on Solomon was gonna be fulfilled. Now watch this, go ahead.
Verse 12. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam the third day, as the king had appointed, saying, Come to me again the third day. And the king answered the people roughly, and forsook the old men's counsel that they gave him,
right,
and spake to them after the counsel of the young men, saying, My father made your yoke heavy, and I will add to your yoke.
He said, I'm gonna make it worse. Watch this.
My father also chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. Wherefore the king hearkened not unto the people, for the cause was from the Lord, that he might perform his saying, which the Lord spake by Ahijah,
right,
the Shilonite,
right,
unto Jeroboam the son of Nebat.
Right, watch this.
So when all Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them, the people answered the king, saying, What portion have we in David?
Right.
Neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse.
Right.
To your tents, O Israel. Now see to thine own words, David. So Israel departed unto their tents.
Right. So now the kingdom split. So now let's see. So the kingdom is split. The word has been fulfilled. The kingdom of Israel has been divided into the north and south because of what? Idolatry, right? So now let's see what happens once the kingdom split, right? So we're going to go to the northern kingdom side first. So now jump down. Let's jump down. And jump down to verse 25. First, so we catching up. Rehoboam and Jeroboam started a war against each other because Rehoboam wanted the southern and the northern kingdom to come back under submission under the house of David. But they wasn't going for it, so Shemaiah had to come and tell them, hey, this is of the Lord, fall back. So now they're falling back. Read.
Verse 25. Then Jeroboam built Shechem in Mount Ephraim and dwelt therein.
Read.
And went out from thence and built Penuel.
Penuel, right? Read.
And Jeroboam said in his heart, Now shall the kingdom return to the house of David.
Why? Because there was a feast day coming up. He knew the law that three times out the year, men shall what? Go prepare before the Lord, right? Watch this.
If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, even unto Rehoboam, king of Judah, and they shall kill me, and go again to Rehoboam, king of Judah.
Watch this.
Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold and said unto them, It is too much for you to go to Jerusalem Behold thy gods, O Israel.
He said, what? Behold who?
Behold thy gods, O Israel,
Right.
which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt.
So now, hold on. He said, the gods that brought thee up out of the land of Egypt, right? So you got to realize something. Where did he get this calf thing from? When you go back into the history, calf worship and calf sacrifice was a form of a way that people offered up to who? Nimrod. You know what I'm saying? You got to understand. So he did something dangerous. And where did he learn this at? He learned this from his father. Right? So keep reading on it.
And he set the one in Bethel and the other put he in Dan.
And he put the other one in Dan. Right? Watch this.
And this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan.
Right?
And he made an house of high places, and made priests of the lowest of the people, which were not the sons of Levi.
So now what did he do? Now he done broke the code. Now he's reinventing the same sins that what? King Solomon got the kingdom split for, right? So now, hold on. Let's read. Now let's jump down. Give me a second, because now we're going to jump over.
Jeroboam is from the northern kingdom, right?
Jeroboam is of the northern kingdom. Yeah. So Jeroboam was the king of the northern kingdom, and Rehoboam was the king of the southern kingdom, right?
And who was idolatry? In idolatry, both kingdoms?
No, so right now, you know what I'm saying, Jeroboam was in idolatry. Come on. All right, so now, let me jump down, because we want to go to something else. Matter of fact, that's it on this for now, because we want to save this for the next part too, because we want to take time and show y'all and show how Israel went clumb off. You know what I'm saying? The northern kingdom of Israel went clumb off, and they went deep into idolatry, right? So now, watch this. Give me Ecclesiastes chapter 7, because I want to show you what King Solomon had to say after he realized what he had done, right? Watch this. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 25. So watch this.
The book of Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 25.
All right?
I applied mine heart to know and to search and to seek out wisdom.
So he said, I wanted to go learn and seek out wisdom, right? Watch this.
And the reason of things, and to know the wickedness of folly.
And to do what?
Know the wickedness of folly.
Watch this.
Even of foolishness and madness.
So now he's talking about the things that he have experienced, right, as a king. Watch this.
And I find more bitter than death. And I find more bitter than death the woman.
The who?
The woman.
Because where did his sins get influenced from? The women, the 1,000 women he had, that bunyan, the 1,000 butts he had, right? Watch this.
And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart,
whose mind
is snares.
Is what?
Is snares.
What did God say in Judges chapter 2? He said that the gods of the Canaanites were going to be as what to the Israelites? Snares. Right, read.
And I find more bitter than death and woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands.
Right?
Whoso pleaseth God shall.
So whoever wants to please the Most High, watch this,
shall escape from her.
Watch this.
But the sinner shall be taken by her.
Watch this.
Behold, this have I found, said the preacher.
Watch this.
Counting one by one.
Counting out of all these women that I had. You know what I'm saying? I had 1,000 women. I'm counting. This is through the preacher. I'm counting. Watch this.
To find out the account, which yet my soul seeketh, but I find not.
Right? Watch this.
One man among 1,000.
One man amongst who?
1,000.
How many wives did he have? 1,000. He's telling you something here now. Watch this.
Have I found, but a woman among all those have I not found.
Watch this.
Lo, this only have I found, that God have made man upright.
He said, this have I found, the Most High intentionally made man upright. Watch this.
But they have sought out many inventions.
But we have sought out many inventions. So now, read that part again. Read that part again, and this is what we're going to close out with. We're going to come back with part 2, Most High willing, next week to follow up. But we kicking in the door or going into the history on how idolatry got the kingdom of Israel and the whole tribe of the 12 tribes of Israel rooted up out of the land of Israel as it is this day, right? So read that verse again.
Lo,
go back to Wisdom of Solomon.
This only have I found, that Yahweh hath made man upright. Right. But they have sought out many inventions.
And he said, God made us upright in the beginning, but we are the ones, or we are partakers of those who sought out many inventions. So now we're going to end it with this. Read that again.
The book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, verse 12. For the devising of idols
So the devising of idols
was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them,
and the who?
and the invention of them.
So the inventions that man sought out was who? Idols. Read.
Like of them, the corruption of life.
And the corruption of life, because why? Now you turning your life from the Most High who created you to be upright, and now you serving idols. Now, read that last verse again. The other verse.
27.
Yep.
For the worshiping of idols, not to be named, is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil.
And it's the beginning of all evil. So it was in the beginning through who? Nimrod, Semiramis, and they got named. When all the people split, everybody took what they learned from Babylon and brought it into their own lands, into their own culture, and served these people. And those same gods were even during the time of the Egyptians. When we was in the land of Egypt, when you go back to the land of Egypt, they had different forms of serving and worshiping who? Nimrod and Semiramis. We get delivered out of Egypt. We get destroyed. We go conquer the land of Canaan. What do you find there? You find that what? These same people were serving Nimrod and Semiramis. So now when you go back and read what he just read, this was the beginning. Who was the beginning? Nimrod, Semiramis. Who is the cause of the fall of Israel? Nimrod, Semiramis. And who's going to be the end and the destruction of this land today? The spiritual idolatry of who? Nimrod and Semiramis. And, you know what I'm saying, the end of all evil is going to be when the Lord cast out and debunk and let everybody know that the gods that you've been worshiping on this earth been who? Nimrod and Semiramis. So with that, hey man, we pray it was edifying, you know what I'm saying, and nutritional to your spirit, and nourishment to your spirit. Most High willing, we're going to have a part 2 on this, because now we show where the beginning and the midst, we wanted to show where idolatry came from, the etymology of idolatry. But now we showed you how King Solomon followed this train of this idolatry. You know what I'm saying? But now, most high willing, in the next Shabbat, we're going to show brothers and sisters how the Israelites dwelling in the land partook in all this same folly that they learned from who? The Canaanites, the Zidonians, the Hivites, the Edomites, the Moabites, the Ammonites. So with that, we pray brothers and sisters have a mighty Sabbath. Brothers and sisters, stay in the spirit, continue to endure, and Conyers.
Conyers.